But in spite of that, you have given your precious time to us. So we really please accept our humble obeisances from everybody who have joined on the group and are about to join or later watch this on YouTube. Mataji, we are reading Canto 3. We are on Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is the creation of the universal form. And the text for today is text 18 onwards. So I hand over to you.
Thank you, Mataji. May I just ask, has the Mangalacharan, has that been done already?
No, Mangalacharan has not been done. And I can ask, Gayatri Mataji, are you able to do the Mangalacharan for today? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Sure Mataji, I can do the Mangalacharan. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितां येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरू श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधारा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji, for saying the Mangalacharan so beautifully. So Hare Krishna, Matajis and Prabhujis, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do the service to Srimad Bhagavatam and serving all of you. I start my discussion today by offering my pranam to my Guru. Without his mercy, I wouldn't have been able to do the service. I offer my pranam to Radharani and Krishna, and I pray to them to allow me to serve them, and with all your blessings, may I say the right things. If I do make any mistakes, please do correct me. Thank you. So as Kirtik Mataji said, we are doing Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 6 and verse 18 today. I will read the verse and the translation. If that's okay, Mataji, shall I read it? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Twacham asya vinirpinam vivishurtisnyam oshatehi amshena roma pikandam yerasau pratipadyate. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When there was a separate manifestation of skin, the controlling deities of sensations and their different parts entered into it, and thus the living entities feel itching and happiness due to touch. Purport. For sense perception, there are two principal items, touch and itching, and both of them are controlled by the skin and hairs on the body. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, the controlling deity of touch is the air passing within the body, and the controlling deity of the hairs on the body is Oshadya. For the skin, the object of perception is touch, and for the hairs on the body, the object of perception is itching. Hare Krishna. So we are hearing the creation of the universal form. And before I start, I have to also give my obeisances and my thanks to Satyagaura Prabhu, Radha Govinda Mataji, Achyuta Prabhu, because whilst researching about this, because it's quite a technical verse, I did refer to their teachings as well. And hopefully by their mercies, I don't think I will be able to say as beautifully as they taught the class, but their classes, but hopefully I have been able to learn something from their teachings. So my obeisances to them as well. So we have been, so we are looking at the creation of the universal form. And so we are also talking about the material form of the Lord. And that's a very interesting thing to say. Does the Lord have a material form? But yes, we see the Lord does say even in Canto 2. And again, it's being repeated here in Canto 3. We're talking about the universal form of the Lord, which is a temporary form. It's not one of the permanent forms. And over here, in our verse today, so far we've talked about various other senses, and in our verse today, we are talking about the skin and the senses, the perceptions of touching and itching. Now, the purport is not very long. However, we are told through this purport about the most, one of the most, or rather, if not the most important of our sense organs, because it controls a large part of our lives in this material world. And Srila Prabhupada says that it controls, it is the main driving force of people under Maya. And we'll hear about what it really is. So we are told that the department of skin is manifested, and then as soon as it is manifested, the controlling deities, which we have been hearing, so I'm not going back into or repeating what we have said in the past few sessions. So we know how we have come to this discussion, how Maitreya is talking about the form. And we know that every single part of our body has a deity who governs the body. They're appointed by the Lord to manage that part of the body. Or rather, that part of creation. And the whole creation is described to us as being various parts of the body. And we see that example even in our forms as well. For example, our own body. And so the department of skin, or the skin, is being talked about over here. And as soon as it is manifested, the controlling deities are appointed. And the controlling deities of sensation, they enter into the skin. Now we understand the skin is the biggest organ in our body. And the sense perception is actually quite sacred. The ability to touch is a gift of Krishna, because that's what the skin tells us. It gives us a perception of touch. And the skin is the biggest organ in our body. And the skin actually have a protective function. It protects us from various things. You know, there are more delicate organs under the skin, which are protected by the skin. And Secondly, the skin also gives us it also has an experiential function, or we experience things through our skin. And how do we do that? We experience through what has been given to us in this verse in two ways. We experience through the sense of touch and the sense of itching. So on the skin, there are hairs, and the hairs control that itching. And so when we touch, we come to know whether that touch is, what kind of touch is that? Is that a pleasurable touch, or is that a distress-causing touch? So we experience things through these two things, through the skin. We experience the feeling of touch, and we experience the feeling of itching. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the controlling deity of the touch is the air that is passing through the body. So we talked about the various types of air which pass through our bodies, the prana, upana. And so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the air that passes through our body is the controlling deity of the touch. And it is, so we understand the skin, the organ, everything, it's quite air-based. And the hairs on the body, where we experience itching, we are told in the purport that there is a different deity, and the name of that deity is Oshadhya. So we see right from the start, as we have seen in the previous verses as well, we are given a very, very mechanical structure, mechanics machine. Okay, right at the beginning of spiritual education, we are taught that the spirit soul is very, very different to our body. Our body is just a mechanical arrangement. That is the basic, that's the first knowledge that we understand. And so when a person sees each other, when two people see each other, they don't see the actual self. They just see the exterior, the body. And so that bit is mechanical, we are told. It's just a machine. In Bhagavad Gita 18.61, Krishna tells Arjuna that, Arjuna, the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. So Krishna says that the actual self, the Lord, is in everybody's heart. So we've learned so far that the Lord is in our heart, sitting right next to our soul. In chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, we are talked about the Kshetra, the body, the field, and the Kshetrajna, the field, and also the soul, who is the knower of that field, and also the knower of every field, the knower of every single body of every single jiva, whether it's the ants or a bacteria or an elephant or a demigod or even creatures in the lower planetary systems, knower of every single body is the Paramatma, the Supreme Lord. So in every single body, we have the soul and the super soul. But what covers them is that machine, we are told in Bhagavad Gita. But, and this machine is nothing but made up of material energy. Those raw materials which we have been learning so far, right from the first, through creation, Lord Brahma creates various bodies and gives these souls various bodies, various different types of bodies based on their karma, quality, desires. And that is, once again, that is what is being reminded to us over here, when we are talking about this machine, that is this mechanical object that covers the real selves. And so we are reminded that the body is a machine which created by, which is controlled by Maya and the three modes of material nature. And inside the body, there is the experiencer. So one should not be confused. The body only produces the sensations. And in this verse, the sensations, which the organ that we're talking about is the skin. So by touching, we can the body only gives the information. So if someone touches somebody's, body, a sensation is generated. And that sensation, the body, the external covering, the skin, that does not tell us anything beyond that. The deity who's in charge of the skin allows us to, yes, get some sensation through that touch or through that itching. But it does not tell us further than that, more than that. Sometimes, there are people who go through illness and a part of their body, if touched, there is no sensation. Again, that does not mean that the deity is absent over there, but it indicates that due to some reason, that soul requires a section of their body which should not have any sensation because of some past deeds, because of karmic balance. So this sensation is created, and it is the body, the machine tells us so, that there is this sensation. What happens after that? It immediately goes to our subtle body. So from the gross body, the exterior, the touch, the itch, the skin, which causes the touch and the itch, from the gross body, it immediately goes to the subtle body, which is also temporary, and which is the mind. So it still doesn't reach the soul, nothing to do with our true selves. So it reaches the subtle body, and the mind takes control. And the mind decides whether that touch or itching is that of happiness or that of distress. If that touch is of happiness, then the information, so the mind will say, okay, do it more and more and more. Let it happen again and again, because the mind has decided that it is a touch of happiness. And if the mind decides that, it is causing distress, the mind will say so. So the mind, we are told so many times in the Bhagavad Gita, can be the best of friends or the worst of enemies. And the mind, based on previous experiences, the mind speculates and concocts and tells us what is happiness. And so if we are told by Krishna, if we listen to our mind and we without making a real judgment that what the mind is telling us, is that actually based on what Krishna tells us? Is that actually based on dharma? Or is that actually based on what I really want to feel? So if through previous, experiences, the mind says that, yes, it is some happiness, so keep on doing it, we will, the soul, if it comes completely under Maya, if the soul is dictated by Rajagun and Tamagun, or even sometimes by Sattvagun, if they are controlled, because these energies of Maya, they are, it's the Lord's external energy. They are very, very strong. So if we allow that to happen, then, we go into that temporary happiness, because the mind is temporary. It's telling us of a temporary happiness. The body, the gross body is temporary. The subtle body is temporary. So the first thing that this verse reminds us once again is that in this world of Maya, over and over and over and over again in our daily experience, we will come across experiences where we will come under the control of the temporary. Just as the universal form or the Virat Rupa of the Lord is temporary. We still haven't reached the permanent Rupa of the Lord. We haven't connected with the Paramatma. We're just connecting with the Virat Rupa and parts of the Virat Rupa. So, some of the examples given is, okay, when the food touches the tongue, it may taste good or it may taste bad based on remembrance. The mind tells us, and we react to that. So the real connection is actually felt when a touch connects not with the mind, but with the soul. That is when real connection happens. That is when we are reminded what is true happiness. And we'll come to that. How can we do that? We'll come to that very soon. So in Bhagavad Gita 2.13, we are reminded again that, a soul passes from, in this body, in any body, it passes from boyhood to youth to old age. And then, after the soul leaves the material body, it goes into another body. And a sober person, a person who understands this, is not bewildered by the temporary sensations, temporary feelings of happiness, temporary feelings of distress. They remember what Krishna says in chapter 2, that these happiness and distress, they are just passing like seasons. And that is what we need to remember. We are told over here, once again, it's not, we are just given a little bit over here, but that is what the main purpose is of reminding us that this is what we really need to remember, that what we are experiencing, what we are being told in every single verse over here through the Virat form is that these sensations are temporary, whether it's happiness or distress. And so we see that every small thing in this machine that is being described, every small thing is being departmentalized. Okay, so touch through the, whether it's eyes, ears, nose, everything is departmentalized. And that is the reality. Because we are like the passengers in, in a train. As somebody else is driving, Maya is driving us under the three modes. And Maya is telling us whether the touch is good or the touch is bad. So in Uddhav Gita in Canto 11 of Srimad Bhagavatam 11.8.13, Krishna talks to Uddhav, and Krishna says that happiness due to touch is very, very misleading. And it's like, and Krishna gives the example of catching an elephant in purpose. So when an elephant is caught, a very large hole is dug, and then that's covered with grass and leaves and mud on it. And then a she-elephant, a female elephant, is exhibited in front of a male elephant. And so the male elephant, from remembrance of a touch, which might have reminded the male elephant of something of happiness in the past, chases after lusty desire towards the female elephant, and in doing so gets caught in that trap and is trapped. And that brings us to the main message being given to us in this verse. So far we've been talking about touch and itching and happiness and distress, but what is the main message being given to us over here? Through touch, through that itching, we are being led towards the factor which controls people in this material world, and that is karma or lust. So the lesson being given to us is that, that touch sensation that happiness that we look forward to, that really is the root cause of lust, or lust rather is the root cause of all of these things. So a touch is, we are told that the worst thing that dictates this material world, and Prabhupada has repeated that many times, that in this world, the worst thing that can actually completely and catastrophically affect a person is this lust towards the opposite gender, and the sense of touch or sense of physical enjoyment through that touch, or through that itching, which we'll come to in a second, that brings the downfall in many ways, and that is the driving force in this material world. So that physical lust towards, towards, or rather, the lust for a physical union is what drives people towards downfall many a times. And we see that irrespective of whether one is a Ravan, who was so lustful, and he did awful things against women, so much so that he was actually cursed by Ramba after he behaved badly with Ramba, and he molested Ramba, and he was cursed by her. And that is the reason he was cursed, that in future he wouldn't be able to touch a woman without her consent, and if he does so, he will be killed. And that is the reason he couldn't touch Sita. He couldn't, do anything towards her, because she didn't agree, and she didn't want to be with Ravan. But whether it's a Ravan, or whether it's it's Shalbari Muni, or even I forget the name, Lord Ram's guru, I forget the name of the sage who fell for Menaka. It starts with B. I don't know. Can anyone remind me, please? Sometimes the names just go. He was Lord Ram's guru, Vishwamitra Muni, sorry, who fell for Menaka after, meditating. Or even if it's Lord Indra, who was the king of heavens, he had, so many apsaras, beautiful apsaras at his disposal. He had beautiful wives, and yet he lusted after Ahalya, Gautam Rishi's wife, and because of that, he was cursed by the sage as well. So it can be a demigod, it can be a demon, it can be, Shalbari Muni. He was meditating underwater for so many years, and then he was overcome with lust when he saw two fish mating. So lust of the physical union is such a driving force that it can actually completely destroy people. And that is what we are being told, reminded over here once again through this, by taking our attention towards the skin and the touch and the itching. So we are told that these hairs on the skin cause itching sensations, and these are really very, very powerful forces, because these are the forces, these are the hairs which actually controls the sexual force in a body, which is the strongest force created in the body. And this is what, which we are reminded so many times through the Shastras, through so many pastimes. And you might know this with the pastime of Narad Muni, who once thought that he had actually overcome lust. He had overcome. He is not attracted in a physical way to any other jiva. And so Kamadeva, Cupid, came to entice him many a times, but he did not fall prey to Kamadeva's enticements. And because he was able to overcome lust, and overcome the temptations of heavenly dancers who were brought in front of him by Kamdeva. So he was ecstatic. He was very happy. He went to Brahma, Lord Brahma, his father, and he said, "Do you know what, Father? I have actually overcome lust." And Lord Brahma said, "Okay, fine, but there's no point in really going around dancing and talking about it. That's fine. Okay, it's a good deed. Well done, my son." And then that didn't stop Lord Narad Muni. He said, "No, I have to actually say this to everybody. Lord Brahma, he fell prey to, Lord Brahma was, he was lusting after his own daughter. I mean, obviously, there's a reason behind it. He said, I must say somebody else. I must go to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva fell to Mohini Rupa. Even Lord Shiva, who was a beautiful wife like in Parvati Devi, even he fell prey to the Mohini Rupa of the Lord. I must go and tell Lord Shiva that I've overcome lust." And so he goes to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva says, "That's fine, that's very well done. But listen, you don't have to go and say this to Lord Vishnu." And so obviously, because it was said, Narad Muni obviously had to do that. He had to go to Lord Vishnu and brag about the fact that he had overcome lust. And so Lord Vishnu, he smiled and he said that, "Okay, that's very well done." And Narad Muni said, "Look, I really want something." Lord Vishnu said, "What do you want?" And Narad Muni said, "No, I just want to, I don't want anything. I just want to, just, bask in this glory of overcoming lust." As soon as he left Lord Vishnu, I mean, obviously, it's all Vishnu's plans immediately, and this is a big pastime. I'm just making it really, really short. He came across a beautiful city where he saw that there's a Swayamvara going on. There's a beautiful, beautiful woman, the princess, and immediately, for some reason, Narad Muni falls in love with her. And so he rushes back to Lord Vishnu and says, "Can you please make me as beautiful as you are? Hara," he says, "Hara, can you make me as beautiful as you are?" And Vishnu says, "Yes, I will do that." And what Vishnu did was, instead of giving him the face and the looks of Vishnu, which is very beautiful, he gave him the face of a monkey, which obviously Narad Muni didn't know. So he marches into the Swayamvara, stands there very arrogantly, knowing that, oh, nobody can overcome the charm and beauty and attractiveness of Vishnu. So I'm surely to be married by this princess. And the princess comes, looks at him, and giggles, and then moves forward and marries. I think, if I remember, and please do correct me if somebody else knows this pastime, I think it was Lord Vishnu over there as well. He was there, and the princess marries him. And obviously Narad Muni gets really, really angry, and he comes to Vishnu and blasts him. And then, "Why did he do that? I'm humiliated." He realized that, he was given a monkey's face, and he was just, he was enraged that he was deceived by the Lord. And even in his anger, and this is what lust does to you. This is a people lose their sense of everything, what is good and what is bad. So overcome by lust, Narad Muni even ended up cursing the Lord. And he told the Lord that, when you come in one of your incarnations, you will suffer the separation from your wife. And I will be there as a monkey, because he gave me a monkey face. I will be there as a monkey to witness that. And so, he was obviously referring to the Lord's incarnation as Lord Ram. But that is what lust does. That is what that sensation, that want, that, it's embedded in our mind, and the mind dictates that if I touch another person, that is going to bring me in immense happiness. Now, Narad Muni didn't even know that princess. He only saw that machine that covered her soul, that body, the machine that we are being reminded over here, the skin that covers that soul. So he was lusting after that sensation of touch and the sensation of itching. Itching is nothing but sexual desire. And that is what he was attracted to. He had no idea how the princess was in person. She could be a very gentle person, or she could be a really bad person. But Narad Muni wasn't concerned about this. And he was so angry that the Lord denied him that pleasure that he ended up even cursing the Lord. What a blasphemy. Yes, but however, when he calmed down a bit, Narad Muni immediately regretted his actions, and he understood he was under illusion, and the Lord reminded him, and that is the danger of karma. That is the danger of pride and false ego. And ultimately, that is the danger of coming under Maya and believing in this temporary. So what we have to really remember is that, we have to remember the permanent. So when we are talking, especially, when there is this huge huge attraction towards mating, towards touching, how can we think of a way to overcome it? Because in this material world, it's impossible for us to do that. We are all overcome by that. Every single, whether we are in whichever form we are in, we are all overcome by it, because it is a force. It's the driving force of Maya, and Maya captures us with this sense of touch and itching, because Maya knows this is the greatest weakness of jivas. Maya knows that. So what is the way to overcome it? We can meditate instead on the conjugal pastimes of the Lord. The Lord comes in various incarnations, and even in the Lord's divine form, he is Krishna and Radharani. We can meditate on the divine couple. And the more we meditate on the divine couple, instead of lusty feelings that take or drags our mind and makes us, fall into doing things which does not, where we don't have control of our mind or senses. Thinking about the conjugal pastimes of the divine couple, whether it's Radha Krishna, whether it's Lord Rama, Mother Sita, whether it's Lakshmi Narayan, whether it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Vishnu Priya or Lakshmi Priya. There are beautiful details given of the marriages of Radharani and Krishna when they were little, and they were married by Lord Brahma. There's description given of that. There's beautiful description given in the Ramayana of the marriage of Lord Ram and Lord Sita. Beautiful description of in Chaitanya Charitamrita of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's marriages to Lakshmi Priya and then Vishnu Priya. So we can meditate on those marriages, on the pastimes of the Lord as the supreme Purusha and the supreme Shakti, because that is what the combination of the and I repeat this all every time, because there's no learning beyond the learning of the supreme Purusha and the supreme Prakriti, the supreme Shaktiman and the supreme Shakti, the energetic and the energy. the entire creation, the entire everything starts with a combined or a combination of them, so we can meditate on them. And the fun part is, the more we meditate on their conjugal form, the more purified we become. Instead of being, dragged down by material lust, we are purified to listen to the love of the supreme couple. Because when it comes to the Lord, when it comes to the supreme couple, there is no karma, there is no lust, there is only love. And that is what we have to try and signpost our minds to when we are being overcome by lust. And so we are told that, we are reminded again that this touch and itching combination can be fatal if we don't oppose it. And so we should constantly remember that these are temporary and they do not provide permanent happiness. Even if there is, even if we see a material marriage or a material a couple who maybe or even a physical union which may have caused a lot of happiness, we are being told in this verse that if there is only lust without a connection to the soul, if it is only a belief in the external touch and itching, it is bound to be temporary. If the soul is not connected to, it is bound to be temporary. How? And the example given is that when we have an itch, so it's like, if we have an itch and we scratch it, and that initial scratch, that might provide a little bit of comfort. However, if we keep on scratching that area, that itch, that little bit of itch, that is going to become a big wound if we constantly scratch it. So similarly, that is the illusion of lust. Okay, it makes us think initially that yes, it's fulfilling our desire of that touch sensation of, satisfying my sexual desire of lust, and that is going to give me happiness. However, it is a black hole. It's a complete illusion. And unless and until there is love in it, it is going to create, just like that, the more and more scratching creates a wound, it is going to give more and more dissatisfaction. And that is the reason we see so many of couples breaking up, marriages breaking up, because more and more as we go into Kali Yuga, there is, and this is not generalization, but we do see so many times that, people are overcome through that external machine, or how a person looks like, without connecting with the soul. And when that happens, in Bhagavad Gita, we are reminded again in 2.70 that a person who is disturbed by, just by the external goes nowhere, because greed leads to more greed, leads to illusion. And when that illusion, when it's, we are told of how if that illusion is met, we become proud and thinking that I am the doer, I can do everything. If I demand something, I can definitely get it. But if you are met with a barrier, that turns into anger. And that anger turns into the worst possible thing. It turns into envy. And it takes over our intellect. It just, completely takes over our consciousness and our intellect. And what happens, the worst thing that happens is the soul starts connecting with it, and the soul starts thinking that, yes, this is who I am. The soul starts thinking that I am the body. I am not the Satchitananda who belongs to the Lord, who is as Satchitananda as the Lord himself. But the soul starts connecting and thinking of itself as the body. And so we are told in verse 70 in chapter 2 that a person who is not disturbed by these incessant flows of desires that enter into the river, that enters like rivers into an ocean, that person who's not driven by the incessant flow of water that flows from a river to an ocean, that person is a clever person, because that person is not dictated by these material desires. Because no material attainment in this material world can give us permanent satisfaction, whether it's pleasure, bodily pleasure, money, possession, it doesn't. It's just a trap of sense gratification. Because every material itch leads to another itch. So whether it's, the touch, even when the food touches our tongue, it leads to, more and more and more eating, overeating. That is not going to cause us any happiness. We listen to a certain music. It's lovely to us initially. We listen to it a zillion times. It's not, something else, comes around. We get attracted to another type of music or another song. So it's not permanent at all. And so this, we are again told in chapter 3, verse 39 in the Gita, that lust and material desire, what do? They cover the real knowledge. And they act like uncontrollable fire that is never ever satisfied. And this is what we have to remember as soon as we think about the skin, as soon as we think about touch, because the sound can touch our ears. Okay, the sensation of the food touches our tongue. Touching is very, 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 the touching is very important, but touching can also be happiness, as we will see in a minute. But from this section, what we have to understand, the first bit, is that, as we are reminded, touching and itching, that is a fatal combination, because itching is referring to sexual desires. And the touching and itching, these two combination, based on just the skin, that sense, just the external, is a fatal combination. And so we are told that the jivas will have to find out and figure out how to handle this. How do we handle this? What Krishna tells Arjuna: control your mind. Abhyas, abhyas, abhyas. You have to control your mind, because there is no other way. You have to train your mind. So every man, every woman, even an animal, whatever jiva, 8.4 million of species of jivas created by Lord Brahma, they all have to go through this phase, and they have to experience. They have to control the mind. Now, we are told that a woman needs to be chaste, and a man needs to be, controlled, because there has to be control of the sexual desire. And that is why Lord Krishna doesn't say don't, unless there is a union of, it's a natural desire. It is a natural desire. Krishna doesn't say give up everything, go to the Himalayas, and then just be a yogi. Okay. In fact, what Krishna does say and I forget which it is. It's there somewhere. He actually says that if someone needs to control their sexual desire completely, that is the yogis. But if you are into Grihastha ashram, That is one of your grihastha duties. But what is one of our regulative principles? You cannot have multiple partners. You cannot have extramarital affairs. You cannot have unregulated sex. That is what we are being told. That yes, you have that union of mind, body, and soul when you accept another person as your partner. But in this modern world, we see there are so many ways that people, they end up cheating, or they end up, overcome with lust. And then, all kinds of things are happening nowadays where, I mean, what did Prabhupada do when he had his first devotees? They had multiple partners, and the first thing that Prabhupada did was he married them. He said, if you're living together, you have to choose just one partner. Who are you in love with? Who do you want to live the rest of your life with? And then he married them. And we see examples of beautiful marriages in the first disciples of Prabhupada, who've all gone back to Godhead because they became such great disciples. So we are told that, the tongue, if the tongue is able to overeat, the tongue can also chant the names of the Lord. Why don't we taste that touch of the holy name rather than the touch of something that is going to take us towards lust? So that is what we have to constantly remember when we think of touch, when we think of itching. The difference between the touch of material energy and when we get touched by the energy of Krishna is that, it transforms all our problems into true happiness. In this world of Maya, an itch is inevitable. But we can choose whether it's going to be an itch of a material itch that will take us towards a black hole and make us suffer, or whether it's going to be an itch which will take us towards Krishna, just wanting us, giving that itch and the eagerness and the urgency, not for a material pleasure, but an itch and an urgency to attach ourselves to Krishna, to touch Krishna and Radharani. If we touch Krishna and Radharani, what does Krishna say? He tells Arjuna in the Gita, Arjuna, declare loudly that, I will give my devotees what they don't have. I will protect what they have, and I will give to them what they don't have. So even if it's material desires, we want something, we'd rather attach ourselves to Krishna, because Krishna will give us directions of living our material lives well. Without that touch of Krishna, if it's an individual, independent touch of Maya, where we are just touching the temporary form, and that is why the universal form of the Lord is temporary, because the Lord wants us to understand this touching is temporary, just like the other senses we've talked about in the other verses. But if you really want to understand me, connect with my Paramatma, connect with the Bhagavan, whichever way you want to connect with me. But don't connect just with the exterior energy, because that is under Maya, it's temporary. So let that touch be the holy name that purifies our soul. Ratnakar turned to Valmiki Muni and wrote, Ramayana. We see Dhruva Maharaj, he was illusioned, and then he just by saying the name of Narayan, he attained the Lord, and the Lord came and gave him darshan. And so we can say, some people say, so in conclusion, because I see only 5 minutes left, so in conclusion, the concept of skin and touch are very, very strong. But what people don't understand is that we have to shift our focus from a material touch and a material itch to a spiritual touch and a spiritual itch. Okay, we can take shelter of Krishna Radharani, we can take shelter of our Guru. Even if the Guru is, whether the Guru is lives next door, whether the Guru lives in a different part of the city, whether the Guru lives in a different country, whether the Guru is not present, we can take shelter of the Guru. Prabhupada is not here anymore. He's gone back to Godhead. But, you know, through his books, so we've learned about Vapu and Vani, through Guru as a person, but also his Vani, through his words, through his instructions, the Guru is present with us, and the Guru can guide us towards the spiritual touch, the beauty of the spiritual touch. And so we understand that we have to be grateful that when we come across a guru, when we come across devotees, because they help in transforming us from this material to the spiritual touch. And we have to understand that otherwise these senses, so we have to, that's the first point we need to understand, transforming our material touch and material itch to spiritual touch and spiritual itch. The second thing we need to remember through this verse is that these senses are either they are wrapped in a trap, like that elephant was trapped in material existence. They trap us, or the same senses, through the spiritual touch, they can liberate us by engaging us more with Krishna consciousness. And we understand the third bit is that it is bhakti. Through all these verses, what we are, that golden thread throughout the Shastras, throughout each canto of Bhagavatam, is only bhakti. And what is bhakti? It's true love of Godhead. And it is only this true ahoituki apratihata, only through this true continuous, unmotivated and continuous love for Godhead is where, instead of this material touch and itching, we can actually experience spiritual touch and itching, as we are given so many examples. And this is how I'll conclude by giving a few examples, how we are told through the Shastras of so many great devotees, like how Ambarish Maharaj, he utilizes his sense of touch by touching devotees or Vaishnav Seva. Okay, we see, we see how there's this in Chaitanya Leela. We see the example of Kalidas and Charu Thakur. I don't know if you know this pastime, but you might want to check this out and do research, where Kalidas belonged to a lower caste, and he used to just take the remnants of devotees, used to take the remnants of devotees, and he once wanted to take the remnants of a devotee of Charu Thakur who was of a lower caste. And despite the fact that Charu Thakur didn't want to do that because he belonged to a lower caste, what Kalidas did was he gave some mangoes to Charu Thakur and then just hid behind his house. And Charu Thakur's wife, he peeled the mango peels, and they had the mangoes and tasted the mango seeds, and then they threw them out. And Kalidas was hiding. He came out from behind where he was hiding. He took up those mango seeds and he ate that. He licked from what was remaining on the seed from that peel, because that is how great devotion he had for devotees. Because what is the greatest secret of getting a spiritual touch? We realize that in devotees, or rather the shelter of devotees is the most, it's the safest place. The Lord says, Aham Bhakta Paratin, when describing Ambarish Maharaj. I can forgive you if you, are angry towards me, or if you, are offensive towards me. But I cannot forgive you if you're offensive towards my bhaktas or my devotees. So taking the shelter of devotees is the safest place. And that is what we can do. I mean, Lord Kapila says in the 3rd canto that attachment to the material world is a cause of bondage. But when that same attachment is directed towards the self-realized souls or the great devotees, it opens the door to liberation. So in conclusion, we can say that, that sense of touch and itching, when employed just for sense gratification, just to, satisfy one's own senses, which are temporary, we'd rather, and it's a cause of bondage in this material world, that same sense of touch, if it is employed in Vaishnav Seva, and through Vaishnav Seva to the Lord, it opens the door of liberation. And there are so many examples we find, whether we just talked about Ambarish Maharaj, there's Ajamila, who called out Narayan, and the Vishnu Dutas fought with the Yamdutas and gave him another chance. There's King Yayati, who took youth from his son just to be able to enjoy sexual pleasures, but he understood he was only hankering after the external body, which is temporary. And he realized his mistake, and he renounced that and turned to Krishna. And, Prahlad Maharaj, we see how that spiritual touch saved him from the material touch, how he was, tortured. How many ways materially he was tortured, but that spiritual touch saved him. The physical strength of Gajendra, the big elephant, couldn't save him from the crocodile. But as soon as he remembered the Lord, that spiritual touch saved him. And ultimately, the gopis, they left all their comforts. They left everything for Krishna. They would do everything for Krishna. They even wanted to go to hell. We know that famous pastime where the dust from their feet was needed to cure the headache of Krishna. Nobody would give that dust. No demigod, not Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva. Narad Muni was sent by Krishna to the gopis, and the gopis didn't even think twice. They gave the dust to Narad Muni. And when asked by Narad Muni, they said, we are ready to go to hell. We don't care. All we want is that Krishna be happy. And that is the spiritual touch that we want. And we can pray to our gurus, we can pray to the Vaishnavas to help us, where in this material world we are completely overcome and overtaken by the material lust, material touch, material itching, that they guide us to move from that lust towards love and experience that spiritual lust, whether it is in maintaining our family life, when there is that blessing of Krishna, even that family life is going to be glorious. And then as a family, we pray for that spiritual touch of Krishna and be attached to Krishna. So with that, I'm sorry I went overboard by 4 minutes. I take permission to end here. If I've made any mistakes, please do correct me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for today's session, from taking us from spiritual itch, from material itch to spiritual love, from lust to love, this journey. Are there any questions or comments? I know we have exhausted our time, but I think we can take few questions because it's a very important topic. If there are no questions from the group, I might have few. So I liked what you said about the subtle body also being temporary. We know that, but we always connected the subtle body with the soul. So we just assume that that is also permanent, but that is not. So the gross body is temporary, and the subtle body travels with the soul into another body, but yet the subtle body is temporary. So
It is, yeah.
yeah. So that.
Yes, Mataji. So what it means is, so you can't get rid, so say the gross body, what you can see, that becomes dust. Yes, and that decomposes, that decays. Now you cannot get rid of the mind, the false ego, or the intelligence, the intellect, or even the chitta, the hard disk where all the memory is stored. You can't get rid of it, but because it is material, it is full of material consciousness, but through what we can do, and it travels, you're right in saying it travels with the soul, but what we can do is we can channel it towards the spiritual. We can change it. We cannot destroy it. It doesn't get destroyed, or it doesn't decomposes or decays, but it changes from a material being a material entity or form or of material consciousness to a spiritual consciousness. And that is that. So it changes. So that temporary bit is the material thing that they have, the material bit that it has. So once that material state is conquered, then it automatically it changes to the spiritual, and then it becomes permanent. It becomes, so because it is always, you cannot destroy the mind. You cannot destroy the intellect or the false ego. It's always there. But in the spiritual world, people have their minds, therefore their egos. Every emotion that we have, there's ego, there's jealousy, envy, jealousy. It's there as well. Well, not as strong as envy, but there's jealousy even in the spiritual world. But it all is, directed towards Krishna. People are jealous who can serve and love Krishna more. So there is the mind, there is the intellect, there is the ego, but they are all in the positive sense. As in chapter 15 of the Gita, we see everything over here is an invert. It's like the reflection of a tree. So everything is inverted, everything is perverted. So similarly, the mind, the intellect, the false ego, they are inverted, they're perverted, and they're under the control of Maya. And because they're under the control of Maya and completely covered with material energy, they are temporary. As soon as that is channelized into being spiritual and it changes, it becomes anything that becomes spiritual. It takes the position of permanence. Does that make sense, Mataji?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments from the group?
Hare Krishna, Mataji, thank you for this wonderful class. I just had a comment to make. Yesterday, I watched the Narasimha movie that recently came out, and yeah, it just made me remember, at the start where Aditi and Kashyap Muni were having a conversation, and Aditi was overcome with lust, and she told Kashyap Muni, and he said that no, this is not the right time, and this is the time that demons are born, and she didn't listen, and that's how Hiranyakashipu was born. But then because of Narad Muni's instructions and what he said when he was in the womb with Aditi was pregnant, he transformed, and because of his spirituality and spiritual advice, he changed completely, and he was not a demon like his father. Yeah. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for the beautiful reminder. I know it's on Netflix now, so I have to watch it on Netflix. So no, thank you for the lovely reminder. And yeah, that's such a great example how Diti was, so Aditi was the other sister. Aditi gave birth to all the demigods. Diti gave birth to all the demons. And how it was the wrong time of the day. that is, they chose a time when Lord Shiva goes around with all the ghosts and the spirits. And that's why Kashyap Muni said don't. But then Kashyap Muni was overcome by lust. So you're so right. Thank you for the reminder, Mataji, and lovely pastime. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for that contribution, Chandni Mataji. Is it possible for you to end the session for today? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you once again for this wonderful class. I would request everyone to loudly chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Kindly unmute yourselves.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnava.
Jai.
Thank you. Thank you, Her Grace
Srimad
Panchali Kar
Panchali Kar Mataji ki jai.
Srimad
Grantraj
Bhagavatam
Srimad
ki
Bhagavatam
jai.
ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Matajis and Prabhujis. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Thank you,
so
Mataji,
much.
for a wonderful
Thank you.
class. Hare Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.